Welcome to the show.
Imagine you hire a new housekeeper for your boutique hotel.
Okay, yeah.
It's day 65 on the job, and she's doing great. I mean, the guests love her. The rooms are spotless.
Right, a total win.
Exactly. But then a state inspector walks right into your lobby, asks for her specific training file, and discovers she missed her state-mandated human trafficking certification by, like, exactly 5 days.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And your penalty, $2,000 per day.
Wow.
With absolutely zero warning and literally zero time to fix it. I mean, welcome to the 2026 hospitality landscape, you know?
Yeah.
Where that traditional 90-day grace period is just completely dead and buried.
It really is a brutal awakening for a lot of operators this year because, you know, the leniency we used to see, that slap on the wrist, the whole just fix it by next quarter mentality, it's been entirely replaced.
Right.
So replaced by this culture of immediate, highly punitive enforcement.
And that is exactly what we are tearing into today. I'm your host, that friend who, you know, reads all the dense legal briefings, the supply chain logistics, and the regulatory roadmaps so you literally don't have to.
Someone has to read them.
Right. And I want to welcome you, our listener, to a very special deep dive for the Kitchen to C-Suite Network.
Glad to be here.
The official title of our deep dive today is Check In and Check Out, 2026's mid-year hospitality law overhaul. And joining me to unpack all of this is our resident expert, the calm voice of reason, who is here to help us, you know, connect the dots on how these global trends are actually going to hit your bottom line.
I am very glad to be here because, frankly, if you look at the landscape in August of 2026, the hospitality industry is trapped in this incredibly stressful paradox right now.
A paradox? How so?
Well, money's flowing, right? But it is evaporating before it even hits the bank account.
Okay, right. Let's set the stage with that paradox. Because on the consumer side, demand is shockingly resilient. I mean, people are traveling, the dining rooms are totally full.
Exactly. You try getting a reservation on a Friday.
Seriously. The latest projections for nationwide restaurant sales are approaching $1.55 trillion.
Yeah.
That is trillion with a T.
It sounds like a golden age on paper.
It does. But if you talk to anyone actually running a property, they're just sweating because operating margins are facing historic compression.
Yeah, because the cost of simply opening your doors every morning has fundamentally changed this year.
Right.
And a massive portion of that overhead isn't the cost of, you know, premium ingredients or luxury linens. It is the cost of absolute unyielding compliance.
Wow.
We have basically shifted from an era of voluntary sustainability and like best efforts into an era of strict protocol-driven, technology-enforced operations.
So our mission for this deep dive is to take a stack of mid-year 2026 global reports, legal briefings, the works, and synthesize what this shift actually means for you, the listener.
There is a lot to cover.
There is. We are going to look at everything from the NLRB labor reset and the absolute destruction of so-called junk fees to digital IDs, FDA traceability mandates that are frankly breaking supply chains, and even massive financial penalties for a single plastic water bottle in the UK.
It's a complete reimagining of liability, really. I mean, stretching all the way from the loading dock in the back of the house straight to the digital wallet at the front desk.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in. Let's start with the most expensive, most complicated part of any hospitality business, which is the people working inside the building.
Always the biggest expense.
Always.
Yeah.
So to understand why hotels and restaurants are ripping up their operational playbooks this year, we have to talk about the 2026 National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB Rewind.
Ah, the rewind. This is a textbook case of regulatory whiplash, and it has massive implications for anyone operating under a franchise model.
Right.
If you are listening to this and you are part of a corporate hotel brand, or say you own a few locations of a national fast food chain, your biggest legal terror over the last few years has been the definition of a joint employer.
Okay, define that terror for me. Like, what is the actual nightmare scenario for a corporate brand here?
Okay, so the nightmare is that a local franchisee in, let's say, Ohio, commits a massive labor violation.
Okay.
They steal wages, they violate union-busting laws, or maybe they unlawfully fire a whole group of employees. If corporate is deemed a joint employer, suddenly the parent company, the massive global brand with the incredibly deep pockets, is legally and financially on the hook for what that one rogue local manager did.
Oh, wow. So it's all about the firewall between the big corporate brand and the local operator.
Exactly.
And in 2023, that firewall basically got bulldozed,
It's
right?
completely flattened. The 2023 NLRB rule dramatically broadened the standard. It basically stated that corporate could be held liable if they possessed even, and I quote, indirect or non-exercised influence over essential employment terms.
Wait, non-exercised.
Yeah. Think about what that means. If your franchise agreement simply gave corporate the right to influence local scheduling or wages, even if corporate had never once actually stepped in and used that power, the near existence of that contractual right made you a joint employer.
That seems literally impossible to navigate. I mean, a brand has to have some level of standards, otherwise it's just not a brand.
Right.
But a federal judge in Texas actually stepped in and halted that 2023 rule, didn't they? They called it arbitrary and capricious.
They did. And that whole legal battle brings us to now, mid-2026, where the NLRB has officially withdrawn that 2023 standard and reinstated the older 2020 framework.
Okay, so the 2020 framework is back. What does that actually change on the ground for, say, a corporate auditor or a regional director walking into a property today?
It returns us to a standard of substantial direct and immediate control.
Okay.
So to pierce that firewall now, corporate has to actively and consistently dictate essential terms of employment. We are talking about wages, hours, scheduling, hiring, and firing.
Got it.
If corporate isn't directly pulling those specific levers on a daily basis, the liability stays with the local franchisee. It provides a much, much steadier baseline.
Wait, hold on. Let me just push back on this steadier baseline idea for a second.
Sure.
Does this mean corporate can just wash their hands of labor issues entirely now? Can they just sit back and say, hey, we are just a logo and a marketing fund. The franchisee does the hiring, so we have zero liability.
No. And that is a very, very dangerous assumption that legal consultants are desperately trying to warn brands about this year.
Okay, so it's not a free pass.
Absolutely not. You cannot just assume the 2020 framework is an impenetrable shield without aggressively auditing your own internal documents. And specifically, you need to look at your brand standards manual.
Why the manual specifically?
Because the line between a brand standard and direct control is incredibly thin, like paper thin.
Give me an example.
Let's say your brand standards manual dictates that employees must wear a specific uniform. You know, a red polo shirt.
Sure, that makes sense.
That's a brand standard. You are totally fine there. But what if your manual dictates the exact minute an employee must take their mandatory lunch break just to ensure lobby coverage?
Oh, I see.
Or what if it provides a mandatory word-for-word disciplinary script that a local manager must read when terminating a worker?
Ah, okay. Then you aren't just protecting the brand anymore. You are literally managing the employees day to day.
Exactly. If you dictate the mechanics of a firing, you are exercising substantial direct and immediate control. And boom, the firewall's gone. You are a joint employer again under the 2020 standard.
Wow.
So the actionable advice for franchisors right now is to aggressively scrub those manuals. Your corporate field consultants should be auditing whether the hotel smells right, whether the food is cooked to the right temperature, and whether the logo is clean.
Right, the brand stuff.
Yes, they cannot be auditing the shift schedules.
Man, that is a terrifyingly thin tightrope to walk.
It really is.
But even if corporate manages to stay off the hook and walk that tightrope, the actual local operator is just getting absolutely crushed by the pure cost of labor this year.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because, I mean, the federal rules might have stabilized a bit, but the state-level wage and leave mandates in 2026 are just wild.
They are. We are seeing a... Exactly. But if the server has a really slow Tuesday lunch shift and just doesn't make that $5.65 in tips per hour, the employer has to legally step in and make up the difference out of their own pocket.
And New Jersey is playing a very similar game, but with even smaller margins for the operator, right?
Right. New Jersey just hit a $15.23 minimum wage for seasonal and small employers.
Okay.
For tipped employees there, the base cash wage is only $6.05. So the employer is relying heavily on a $9.18 tip credit.
Wow, that's a big gap to fill with tips.
It is. And the administrative burden of tracking that shift by shift, ensuring every single worker crosses that $15.23 threshold, it requires sophisticated payroll software that a lot of independent mom and pop operators just haven't invested in yet.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of them are still using spreadsheets.
Or pen and paper.
But looking at the sources here, it's not just the hourly rate that's squeezing the margins, it's the time the employees actually aren't working.
The leave mandates.
Yes. The expanded leave mandates are reshaping how a restaurant or hotel even functions on a daily basis. Let's look at New York's ESTA.
The Earned Safe and Sick Time Act.
That's the one.
The 2026 amendment to this is a massive operational headache. Effective February 22nd, New York employers must provide an additional 32 hours of unpaid protective leave immediately upon hire.
Wait, hold up. Immediately upon hire.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And again, on the first day of every single calendar year.
So someone can work for me for like 2 days and suddenly they're legally entitled to almost a full week of protective leave.
Yes.
And what does protective actually mean in this specific context?
Well, it is entirely separate from standard sick time.
Okay.
It covers absences for public emergencies, severe weather-related events, or attending to needs related to workplace violence or domestic abuse.
Okay, so imagine you run a 15-person neighborhood diner in Brooklyn.
Sure.
It's a Friday afternoon. A massive storm is forecasted. Maybe a state of emergency is declared by the mayor.
It happened?
Right. And 2 of your line cooks and a server invoke this 32-hour protective leave at 4:00 p.m. because they legitimately need to secure their homes or handle a public emergency. How does that restaurant even open for dinner service?
Logistically, they probably don't.
Wow.
Or the owner is literally back there cooking and serving simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that is the huge friction point we're seeing.
Yeah.
The intent of the law is vital, right? Protecting vulnerable workers during emergencies is a good thing.
Yeah,
But the mechanical reality for a small operator is just pure chaos.
absolutely.
And New Jersey is compounding this same kind of pressure with their Family Leave Act expansion this year.
The NJFLA. This one actually blew my mind when I read the briefing. Walk us through the new thresholds for New Jersey.
Yeah, so effective July 17, 2026, New Jersey dropped the employer size threshold for mandatory family leave from 30 employees down to just 15.
Okay.
Suddenly, thousands of small independent restaurants, boutique motels, local cafes, they're under strict statutory family leave mandates for the very first time in their history.
And they didn't just lower the business size threshold, though. They drastically lowered the bar for the employee to actually qualify for the leave.
Drastically. It used to be that an employee had to work 1,000 hours in the preceding 12 months to qualify for this family leave.
Right. So pretty solid, established employee.
Basically, yeah. You had to be a very established, near full-time employee. Now, the requirement is just 250 hours in the preceding 3 months.
250 hours in 3 months. Let me just do the math on that real quick.
Okay.
That's roughly, what, 20 hours a week?
Give or take, yeah.
So a college kid working part-time for one single summer instantly qualifies for statutory family leave.
Precisely. The tenure requirement dropped from 12 months down to 3 months.
That is wild.
For an industry that relies heavily on seasonal, part-time, and transient labor, this is an absolute administrative earthquake.
Yeah.
Operators have to completely rethink their staffing models. You just can't run a lean team anymore. You have to hire heavy and budget significantly for administrative coverage costs, basically assuming a certain percentage of your staff will legally be on leave at any given moment.
Okay, so let's synthesize this for the listener.
Sure.
If you are an operator in 2026, your payroll is ballooning. Your compliance tracking is costing you a fortune in software subscriptions. Your staff is eligible for more leave faster, meaning you need to overhire just to maintain basic shift coverage.
Right.
Now, historically, the hospitality playbook for a margin squeeze like this was simple, right? Just quietly tack on a 4% wellness fee or a resort fee at the bottom of the receipt to cover the gap.
Oh, yeah. And for a long time, that worked perfectly. It kept menu prices looking artificially low on the website while protecting the bottom line.
But that playbook is officially obsolete now.
Completely dead. Regulators in 2026 are slamming the door on that practice entirely.
The death of the junk fee. I'm actually fascinated by the mechanics of this crackdown, because following the Federal Trade Commission's rule on unfair or deceptive fees back in 2025, 2026 is the year we are seeing vicious, highly punitive local enforcement.
Yeah, the FTC set the philosophical groundwork. They basically stated that bait-and-switch pricing is illegal.
Right.
But federal rules take time to enforce. Local governments, however, they move much faster.
They really do.
They have transitioned from federal rhetoric to enacting their own enforceable, heavily punitive local laws. And New York City is the prime case study for this right now.
Let's talk about that NYC hidden fee ban. It went into effect February 24, 2026, and it explicitly bans unadvertised hotel resort fees, mandatory service charges that aren't clear, and unexpected credit card holds.
Yeah, and what's critical here is not just that the fees are banned, but how the law actually defines a violation.
Okay, how do they define it?
The standard is now total price transparency from the very first interaction. It is legally classified as an unfair, deceptive trade practice to advertise any hotel or restaurant pricing that does not clearly include all mandatory fees from the very beginning of the transaction.
You know, it's exactly like buying concert tickets. We've all had that horrible experience.
Oh, the worst.
You see a ticket for $50, you get excited, you click through the seat selector, you enter your name, you get to the final checkout screen, and suddenly there's a convenience fee, a facility fee, an order processing fee, and your $50 ticket is now $95.
Yep, it's infuriating.
Under this new legal framework for hospitality, failing to show the all-in price at the absolute first touch point is legally actionable.
And this is where the operational reality gets incredibly complicated for hotels.
Right, because of the tech.
Exactly. Think about the technology stack required to comply with this. If you are a hotel operator, your legacy property management system, your booking engine, your API connections to places like Expedia or Booking.com, a lot of that software architecture was fundamentally built to calculate and append those taxes and fees at the checkout stage.
Right, the database is structured to just pull the base room rate and then separately calculate the resort fee at the end based on whatever's in the cart.
Exactly. So it requires a fundamental rewiring of how your database pulls and displays pricing to the consumer on that initial search page.
That's not a quick fix.
No, it's a huge IT project.
Right.
If you are an executive and you are just telling your marketing team to, add a tiny asterisk at the bottom of the website, you are entirely missing the point.
Right.
If the software isn't rebuilt for total price compliance from the initial search query, you are basically sending out engraved invitations for a class action lawsuit.
Because under the NYC Consumer Protection Law, there is a very fast track for litigation and a massive fines attached to it.
And it isn't just New York. Look at the data from New Jersey in the reports.
What's happening there?
The sources explicitly point out that while New Jersey hasn't passed a specific bill titled the Junk Fee Act yet, legal analysts are actively warning that businesses are still fully liable under the state's existing Consumer Fraud Act for any price misrepresentation.
So even if your specific city hasn't passed a shiny new law in 2026, the existing consumer protection laws are just being weaponized against these hidden fees.
Exactly. The era of the hidden surcharge to cover your rising labor costs is definitively over.
Wow.
Strategic leadership has to assume that any mandatory fee not disclosed in bold text at the first guest touch point is a massive, immediate financial liability.
So we've basically secured the consumer's wallet. But state governments this year are taking an even harder line on something much more important, which is physical safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings us to the actual front lines of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, the perception of what a hotel or a restaurant is has really shifted in the eyes of the law.
Has.
They are no longer just places of leisure. They are now heavily targeted as trafficking touchpoints.
Right.
Human trafficking networks, unfortunately, rely incredibly heavily on hotels, motels, and short-term rentals to operate. And the government has finally decided that the burden of disrupting those networks falls squarely on the operators themselves.
Which brings us right back to the scenario I mentioned at the very beginning of the show. Florida statute 509.096.
Yeah, Florida is setting a very aggressive national precedent here. They require annual certified human trafficking awareness training for all staff in specific roles.
Namely, housekeeping and front desk or reception, right?
Yes, those specific touch points.
And this isn't just like a generic HR video you click through while eating lunch. They have to learn specific indicators, right?
Yes, they are trained to identify very specific behavioral red flags.
Like what?
Things like a guest who is not allowed to speak for themselves, or someone without access to their own identification or money. Individuals showing visible signs of fear or physical abuse, or even a room that is refusing cleaning service for an unusual number of days.
Okay, that makes sense.
They also have to learn the exact safe reporting protocols to contact law enforcement without tipping off the trafficker and endangering the victim, which is crucial.
But the mechanics of the enforcement are what's truly terrifying for operators this year. the death of the 90-day grace period.
This is the operational shockwave I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Historically, if an inspector audited your property and found that you were missing a certification or, a file wasn't up to date, you were issued a warning and you were given 90 days to correct the deficiency.
That seems reasonable.
Florida has removed that correction window entirely for this specific statute.
So new hires in these housekeeping and front desk roles have a strict 60-day window from their exact start date to complete this certified training.
And if an inspector walks in on day 65 and that housekeeper hasn't completed it, the fine is an immediate $2,000 per day per violation.
That is just mathematically devastating. I mean, in an industry with a notoriously high turnover rate, you might hire 30 or 40 housekeepers a year.
Easily.
So you are running 40 separate overlapping 60-day countdown clocks. A stack of signed papers in a filing cabinet isn't going to satisfy an inspector. And frankly, a human HR manager can't track that manually without eventually making a mistake.
Which is exactly why compliance in 2026 is fundamentally a technology play. You simply cannot rely on a binder anymore.
Right.
The sources highly emphasize the necessity of automated onboarding technology. Platforms like Cogno, which is a learning management system, or LMS.
Okay, so how does an LMS actually solve the 60-day clock problem for an operator?
It's all about integration. The moment a new hire signs their digital W-2 in your payroll system, the LMS automatically triggers. It routes the state-specific certified training module directly to the employee's phone or terminal. And crucially, it tracks their progress and generates an immutable, time-stamped digital record.
Okay, so it handles the clock.
Yeah, if the employee hits day 45 and hasn't finished it, the system automatically alerts management.
That's smart.
And when the state inspector arrives, you aren't digging through a dusty filing cabinet. You just export an audit-ready, cryptographically secure report showing exactly who took the training and when.
And it's a nightmare for multi-state brands, too, because every state is taking a slightly different approach to this, aren't they? Like, Florida targets specific roles, like housekeeping. But if I look at California...
Right. California's mandate is much broader. They don't specify roles at all.
What do they require?
They mandate a minimum 20-minute training for anyone, quote, likely to interact with victims.
Anyone.
Anyone. So depending on how your specific property operates, that can mean security guards, valet parkers, bellhops, even food and beverage management.
Wow. And then you have states trying to attack the actual business models that facilitate trafficking. Let's talk about Connecticut's law that is looming for 2027.
Yeah, Connecticut's Public Act Knox in 2698 is fascinating because it goes way beyond training and into actual operational prohibitions.
Right.
Beginning in 2027, lodging operators will have to formally register with the Department of Consumer Protection. But the massive change is that the law specifically prohibits offering hourly room rates.
That's huge.
Furthermore, it explicitly bans offering discounts or special benefits for any stay under 12 hours.
Because an hourly rate is a massive, glowing red flag for illicit activity.
Precisely. The state is basically saying, we don't just want you to spot the crime. We are making the transactional mechanics of the crime illegal in your building.
That's a major shift in strategy.
It is, and we are seeing similar proactive measures everywhere. Georgia, for instance, is frantically passing training requirements for hotels and short-term rentals right now, just to prepare for the massive influx of people surrounding the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
So the operators are being forced to protect the public from trafficking. But the states are also stepping in to mandate physical safety for the workers themselves, right? Specifically, isolated workers.
Yes, workplace violence and de-escalation are paramount right now. And again, this isn't about just giving an employee a safety pamphlet. It requires physical hardware integration into your daily operations.
Let's look at Washington State as an example. As of January 1st, 2026, they require all isolated employees. So think a housekeeper cleaning a room alone or a night auditor working the front desk at 3 a.m. to receive annual safety training and to be provided with wearable panic buttons.
Yeah, wearable panic buttons that actually pinpoint the exact location of the employee inside the building and immediately summon security or law enforcement.
That's incredible technology.
And this hardware mandate is spreading fast. New York is rolling out very similar requirements.
What's their timeline?
By January 1st, 2027, large retail and hospitality employers across New York State, specifically those with over 500 employees nationally, must install stationary or mobile panic buttons that connect directly to 911.
It really reframes what it means to work in hospitality these days. You aren't just making beds or serving cocktails anymore. You are operating on the front lines of public safety.
It even extends to medical readiness now.
Really? Like what?
Well, Maryland just passed a law requiring large restaurants, which they define as those with an annual gross income exceeding $10 million, to have an automated external defibrillator, an AED, permanently on site in a prominent, accessible area.
The liability of running a busy public space is just immense.
It really is.
Speaking of technology on the front lines, let's pivot a bit to the front desk in the bar, because the very way we prove who we are, our basic, fundamental identity, has shifted this year.
Oh, absolutely. The rise of state-endorsed digital IDs is arguably the most visible consumer-facing technological shift of 2026. Jurisdictions like Colorado, Utah, and Virginia have formally established mobile digital credentials as legally recognized, fully secure alternatives to physical plastic cards for age and identity verification.
Okay, let's walk through the mechanics of this, because I know people are very skeptical.
They are.
I walk up to a busy bar in Colorado. Instead of digging out my physical driver's license from my wallet, I pull up the My Colorado app on my phone.
Yep.
But my immediate fear, and I guarantee you it is the listener's fear too, is data harvesting.
The privacy concern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I hand the bouncer or the bartender my unlocked phone so they can read my digital ID, aren't they seeing all my private info?
Right.
My exact address, my exact birth date, maybe even my text notifications popping up while they hold it.
That is the primary consumer fear, yes.
Yeah.
And it is exactly what the underlying architecture of digital IDs was built to prevent.
Oh, cow.
First and foremost, the systems are designed to be entirely contactless. You do not hand your physical device over to the bartender.
Oh, good.
You hold it, and they scan it with their own verification device, or you tap an NFC reader. Furthermore, the technology relies on a concept called selective disclosure.
Okay, break down selective disclosure for me. What does that mean?
Because your digital credential is cryptographically signed by the state's Department of Motor Vehicles, it have inherent unforgeable trust built right into it.
Okay.
So the verification app doesn't need to see your whole life story to know if a specific fact is true. So, for alcohol verification, the protocol allows you to hide your exact birth date, your home address, your weight, your height.
So what does the bouncer actually see on their screen then?
They simply see a secure, cryptographically validated 21+ indicator, just a big green check mark in your photo.
That's it.
That's it. It confirms you're of legal drinking age without exposing a single piece of extraneous personal data. It is actually vastly more private than handing someone a piece of plastic that has your home address printed right on the front of it.
That is incredibly elegant. And the sources mentioned Colorado has added some unique personalizations to their digital ID, right?
Yes, they have. Within the My Colorado app, users can choose to display affinity icons to express hobbies or support for causes. But much more importantly, from a public safety perspective, they can display a disability identifier symbol.
How is that used in practice?
It serves as a discrete, immediate signal to first responders or state personnel that the individual might have a cognitive, sensory, or physical condition that affects their ability to communicate under stress.
Wow.
It can instantly de-escalate a confusing or tense interaction with law enforcement.
That is amazing. So if these digital IDs are more secure and more private, can I just throw my physical wallet in the trash now?
Absolutely not. And regulatory authorities are constantly having to remind the public of this.
Right.
Digital IDs currently operate in a strictly symbiotic relationship with physical cards. The plastic card remains the foundational root of trust.
Meaning you literally need the physical card to prove who you are when you set up the app in the first place.
Correct. And more practically, digital IDs are not universally accepted across state lines yet.
Right. The interstate issue.
Federal agencies, TSA airport checkpoints in many states, and out-of-state law enforcement still legally require physical state-issued documentation. If you leave your physical wallet at home and drive across state lines, you're essentially driving without a license.
Yeah, state lines definitely still matter, especially when it comes to alcohol. And Utah has introduced some truly fascinating quirks into their verification laws this year.
Utah is always a unique regulatory puzzle for alcohol.
Definitely.
Recently, they implemented the Appearing 35 rule, which drastically changes the operational flow for ID scanning. But it is entirely dependent on your specific license type.
Okay, let's scenario test this. What if I own a restaurant in Utah?
If you operate a licensed restaurant, the legislature has actually eased the burden. Your staff is now only required to check and electronically scan the IDs of customers who appear to be 35 years old or younger.
Yep.
They have moved away from mandating 100% ID checks for every single patron, including 80-year-olds, in a dining setting.
That saves a lot of awkward conversations at the dinner table. But what if I own a bar instead?
If you operate a bar or a tavern, you are entirely excluded from the appearing 35 new ones. You must continue to check 100% of IDs. And crucially, you must electronically scan them prior to entry.
Why prior to entry? Like, what is the scanner actually doing besides just checking the age?
It is pinging a broader court-linked database designed to stop interdicted persons, individuals legally barred from purchasing alcohol due to DUIs or other court orders, from even entering the premises.
Ah, I see.
It's a massive liability shield for the state.
And there is a new twist with international tourists in Utah that operators need to be aware of, right?
Yes. As of May 2026, Utah officially recognizes verified foreign driver's licenses for alcohol purchases, which is obviously great for tourism. The license just needs a photo and a date of birth. But here is the massive operational trap. You have to aggressively train your staff on international date formats.
Right, because an American bouncer looks at a card that says Shuro 1112 and immediately thinks October 11th, 2012.
Exactly. But in many East Asian countries, the date format is year-month-day. In Europe, it is often day-month-year.
Which changes everything.
It does. If a foreign license doesn't scan properly, which happens often with international barcodes, and your staff relies on a manual visual review, they will apply American date logic.
Oh, no.
If they misread the format, they could easily calculate that a 19-year-old is actually 22, serve them a drink, and suddenly your bar is facing a catastrophic liability claim for serving a minor.
It is just a tiny logistical detail that can completely sink a business. And liability is the name of the game right now. Look at South Carolina.
Oh yeah, there are new laws.
They passed incredibly strict new liquor liability laws this year. If your establishment is open after 5:00 p.m. and serves alcohol, you are legally required to maintain a $1 million liquor liability insurance policy.
$1 million.
Plus, your staff has to take a proctored 4-hour training course.
The insurance premiums alone are driving small dive bars out of business down there. Everything is about risk mitigation and physical interventions now.
Like what else?
Well, New Hampshire now requires tamper-proof seals for all cocktails to go, which must clearly and physically demonstrate if the container has been opened in transit.
To stop delivery drivers from sipping it.
Exactly. And Rhode Island is mandating that businesses provide tamper-preventing drink covers to patrons upon request to combat the terrifying rise in drink drugging.
Okay, so we've vetted the staff, we've secured the front door with digital IDs, we've prevented trafficking.
That's a lot.
It is, but none of that matters if a guest sits down at a table and gets severely sick from the food.
Very true.
And that brings us to what might be the most logistically terrifying part of this entire 2026 overhaul. The FDA Food Traceability Rule.
Officially known as Section 204 of the Food Safety Modernization Act. And let me tell you, this is arguably the most complex data tracking mandate the food industry has ever faced.
Now, looking at the briefs, full enforcement of Section 204 has been pushed back to July 20, 2028.
Right.
So my question is, why is the industry in an absolute panic right now in 2026? Why not just wait?
Because you simply cannot overhaul a massive, globally interconnected supply chain overnight.
Fair point.
The mandate requires lot-level tracking for a specific list of high-risk items, what they call the food traceability list.
What's on the list?
We're talking about leafy greens, fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, soft cheeses, certain seafood. The law requires every entity in the supply chain to assign and track immutable traceability lot codes, or TLCs, across what the FDA defines as critical tracking events.
Critical tracking events. Okay, walk me through the life of a tomato under these rules.
Okay, let's do it. A farm in Mexico harvests the tomatoes. That's the initial packing event. They assign a TLC. Let's call it Code A. The farm ships it. Shipping is a critical tracking event. The data is logged.
Got it.
A distributor in Texas receives it. Receiving is an event. They log Code A. The distributor ships it to a restaurant in Chicago. Another event. The restaurant receives it. Event logged.
And the code never changes through all those steps.
The TLC remains Code A for that entire journey. The only time a TLC can be changed is if the food is physically transformed.
Like cooked.
Or chopped. If a manufacturer takes those tomatoes and dices them up to make salsa, that is a transformation event. The old TLC is retired and a brand new TLC is generated for the salsa.
The theoretical goal here actually makes total sense. I mean, if there is an E. coli outbreak in Chicago, the FDA wants surgical precision.
Exactly.
They don't want to tell the whole country to throw away all romaine lettuce, causing millions of dollars in food waste and panic. They want to instantly trace the data back to Code A and pull only that specific lot.
That is the noble public health goal, yes. But the mechanical reality on the warehouse floor is an absolute nightmare. And this brings us to what the industry is calling the each's problem.
Let's talk about each's. Imagine you have a small cafe.
Okay.
The distributor delivery truck rolls up, and instead of dropping off a full sealed case of lettuce, they drop off a mixed box containing 3 loose tomatoes, 1 cucumber, and a block of cheese.
Very common order.
Right. How on earth does the cafe or the distributor track the specific TLC for 3 loose tomatoes?
They essentially can't.
Hmm.
Not without grinding the entire supply chain to a halt.
Really?
Yeah. Each's are individual items broken from their original, uniformly coded cases. In a high-velocity distribution center picture, a warehouse the size of 3 football fields products move in and out of mixed lot pallets in designated holding areas known as pick slots.
Right. A worker on a forklift is just zooming around grabbing what they need to build an order.
Exactly. To maintain the perfect integrity of a single TLC for every single loose item or mixed pallet, a warehouse worker would have to physically stop and use a barcode scanner on every single tomato, every single time it moves from a pallet to a truck.
That's impossible.
Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of items a night. The labor cost and the time delay make it logistically impossible and wildly cost prohibitive. The supply chain would gridlock.
So what is the solution then? They can't just ignore the federal law.
This is the exact debate happening in 2026. Congress directed the FDA to hold quarterly listening sessions this year, March, June, September, and November, to hammer out flexible, practical solutions with the industry.
Okay.
Right now, 2 main flexibilities are on the table to solve this each's problem. The first is reasonable range reporting.
How does a reasonable range work?
Instead of forcing the distributor to scan the exact case of tomatoes going onto the truck, the distributor could provide the restaurant with a digital list of a reasonable range of TLCs.
So they give them a few options.
Basically saying, based on what was in our pick slot today, your tomatoes came from one of these 10 possible lots.
It's less precise, but it keeps the trucks moving at least.
Yeah.
What's the second proposed solution?
The second is inferred TLCs.
Inferred TLCs. So basically, inferred TLCs are like card counting in blackjack.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You aren't physically looking at every single card in the deck as it's dealt, but you are using the historical math of what went into the pile and what has already come out to confidently deduce what is currently on the table.
That is a perfect analogy. Distributors want to use their sophisticated warehouse management system software to infer the code.
How does the software do that?
They use logic like first expired, first out, or FIFO. The software algorithm calculates, based on when these pallets arrived and when they expire, there's a 99% probability that the tomato on this truck belongs to this specific TLC.
So it's algorithmic guessing.
It is highly educated algorithmic guessing rather than physical barcode scanning.
But the FDA must absolutely hate that.
Public health advocates absolutely hate it. They argue that these flexibilities completely erode the surgical precision that Section 204 was designed to create in the first place.
Right, because if you're wrong.
If you use inferred codes and the algorithm is wrong, you trace a lethal outbreak to the wrong farm. It is a massive battle right now between public health ideals and supply chain realities.
And while commercial kitchens are ripping their hair out over traceability, they are simultaneously getting slammed by compounding allergen laws.
Oh, the compliance surface for food allergies is widening at an incredible speed.
It really is.
It started years ago with just asking questions at the table. Then it moved to labeling prepackaged foods. Now, in 2026, it is heavily regulating the delivery and takeout fulfillment process. And remember, these laws stack on top of each other. Federal law doesn't erase state law.
Let's look at California's SB 68 as an example.
Effective July 1st, 2026, California requires chain restaurants, specifically those with 20 or more locations, to provide direct digital menu notifications for major allergens. And they have explicitly added sesame to the mandatory tracking list. But recognizing that not everyone uses an app, they also require at least one physical alternative method.
Like a booklet.
Like an allergen chart or booklet at the register, yes, for customers who can't access the digital menu.
And Virginia is pushing the operational requirements even further with SB 183.
Virginia added gluten to their specific allergen tracking list. But the real operational hurdle there is the packaging mandate.
What's the mandate?
SB 183 mandates explicit physical awareness markers on delivery and carryout bags if the food inside was altered for an allergy.
So you can't just trust that the cook put the gluten-free bun in the box. You have to physically label the outside of the sealed DoorDash bag.
Exactly. They also require multilingual staff procedure posters to be prominently displayed in the kitchen and mandate that state-provided celiac awareness training materials be continuously available to all staff.
You know, I was reading through these allergy mandates, and the fracture point really seems to be the technology.
Always is.
Most restaurants have a completely fractured tech stack. The server taps the allergy note into the point of sale system. The point of sale sends a red highlight to the kitchen display system screen. The cook makes the food.
Right.
But those systems often don't talk to the third-party delivery tablet, and more importantly, they rarely produce a permanent, auditable digital record that the allergy protocol was actually followed.
And that data gap is now legally material.
Wow.
If someone gets sick and the state investigates, you can't just say, well, the screen flashed red, I swear. You need an integrated tech stack that proves the allergy was flagged, acknowledged, and the bag was physically marked.
Now, contrast all of these strict, multi-million-dollar, technology-driven commercial kitchen rules with what is currently happening in the residential sector.
It's night and day.
We're in the middle of what the sources call the 2026 food freedom cottage food revolution.
It is a truly fascinating juxtaposition. While the commercial hospitality industry is facing tighter and tighter regulations, the legal landscape for home-based food entrepreneurs is opening up dramatically.
Why is that?
State legislatures are aggressively deregulating home bakers to foster micro-entrepreneurship.
It makes sense. It's a great way to let people build a business without needing $500,000 for a commercial lease. And states are indexing the revenue caps to inflation.
Yes, which is huge.
Texas just raised the legal revenue cap for home bakers to $150,000 a year. Michigan bumped theirs up to $75,000.
You can run a very serious, highly profitable business out of your house now. But the most significant regulatory shift in 2026 is the breaking of the refrigeration barrier.
Okay, explain the refrigeration barrier. What does that mean for a home baker?
Historically, cottage food laws only permitted the sale of shelf-stable items. Bread, cookies, dry mixes, things that don't spoil easily and have a very low risk of bacterial growth.
Right, stuff you can leave on the counter.
But in 2026, 9 states officially legalized the production of time temperature control for safety foods, or TCS foods, inside residential home kitchens.
TCS food. So we are talking about the good stuff.
The really good stuff.
Cream cheese frosting, savory meat pies, cheesecakes, garlic-infused oils.
Exactly. High-margin, highly perishable items that were previously strictly off-limits without commercial health department permit.
That's a game changer.
And because almost every state now legally allows for online ordering and third-party delivery integration for cottage foods, a home baker's storefront isn't just a farmer's market card table on a Saturday morning anymore. It is Instagram, it is DoorDash, it is Uber Eats.
But with caps like $150,000, you really have to track your sales carefully. The sources mention software platforms like Butterbase stepping in to help with this.
Yes, Butterbase and similar software are vital now. They help these home bakers track their real-time revenue and precise ingredient costing.
Right.
The danger is that if a home baker goes viral on TikTok and accidentally crosses that $150,000 threshold, they legally transition out of the cottage food exemption
Oh, and then what?
and immediately trigger commercial health department inspections, which they are physically not equipped to pass in a standard residential home kitchen.
Right, because once you scale beyond the home kitchen limit, you enter the realm of micro-manufacturing hubs.
Shared commissary kitchens or ghost kitchens, yeah. The growth trajectory for these food entrepreneurs is stronger than ever right now. They can start in their apartment, build a brand on social media, move to a shared hub, and eventually open a brick and mortar.
Provided, of course, they navigate the constantly shifting state-by-state legal map.
That is the big caveat, yes.
Okay, so whether we are talking about a massive commercial warehouse using algorithms to guess tomato lot codes, or a home bakery selling cream cheese frosted cakes on DoorDash, there is one universal end result of all this hospitality.
Waste.
Exactly, waste. Mountains of packaging, food scraps, and single-use plastic. And in 2026, regulators are making absolutely sure that this waste hits the bottom line.
For decades, the hospitality industry operated on a purely linear model. Take the resource, make the product, dispose of the trash. Single-use plastics, short-lived amenities, individually wrapped slippers, mini shampoo bottles. But escalating statutory penalties and massive disposal costs are forcing a permanent transition to circular resource management. And the United Kingdom is currently leading this global charge.
The UK's penalty on plastic is just staggering to read. We are talking about a landfill tax rate that hit 130.75 per ton in April 2026.
It is a financial sledgehammer. It has successfully converted plastic waste from being a fuzzy public relations issue that you put on a brochure to make people feel good into a direct, massive financial liability for the CFO.
Yeah, that'll get their attention.
A large hotel generating hundreds of thousands of tons of waste simply cannot afford to operate linearly anymore. It eats all of their profit.
And they're backing up that tax with strict physical recycling mandates at the property level, too.
The UK's statutory simpler recycling rules went into effect in March 2026. If you run a commercial venue with 10 or more employees, you're legally required to separate your back-of-house and front-of-house waste into 4 specific streams.
What are the
Food waste, paper and cardboard, dry recyclables like glass and metal, and general refuse.
And what happens if, say, the dishwasher just throws everything into one bin because it's a Friday night and they're in a rush?
Well, if you fail to separate these streams correctly, you aren't just hit with a fine, your property is forced to pay that highest possible 130.75 landfill tax rate on materials that could have been recycled for a fraction of the cost.
Ouch.
The financial penalty for laziness is immediate.
Plus, they have introduced the Extended Producer Responsibility Fees, the EPR. Let's break down how eco-modulated fees actually work, because that sounds like terrifying tax jargon.
It does. But the EPR framework basically utilizes eco-modulated fees to shift the cost of recycling back onto the business that chose the packaging in the first place.
So it's essentially a sliding scale of financial punishment. The worse your packaging is for the earth, the worse the tax is for your wallet.
Exactly. It actively penalizes properties for using hard-to-recycle, problematic packaging while financially rewarding sustainable design.
Give me a concrete example of that.
Okay. If a hotel is still insisting on using cotton buds wrapped in plastic, traditional PVC key cards, or tea bags sealed with microplastics, they're paying a massive premium for that packaging on the front end for the supplier. And then they're paying a punitive EPR penalty on the back end when they throw it away.
Double whammy. So how are operators overhauling their physical spaces to survive this? The sources call it the revolution.
It is a total standardization of circular practices across the entire industry. And the most visible change for the consumer is the death of the individual 30mm PE toiletry bottle.
Those tiny little shampoos everyone steals.
Exactly those. Moving from those tiny bottles to wall-mounted, refillable bulk dispensers in the showers reduces a hotel's amenity plastic waste by up to 95%.
95%, just by switching the bottle type.
Yes. And beyond just the plastic, it saves about 30% in unused liquid product that used to just get thrown down the drain when a guest checked out after a single night.
That's a huge cost saving.
But the revolution goes way beyond the bathroom. We are seeing single-use plastic water bottles entirely replaced by on-site filtration systems and reusable glass carafes in the rooms.
Nice.
Digital directories on the TV and mobile keys on smartphones are totally replacing plastic key sleeves and thick, laminated room service menus. Even the supply chains are shifting.
How so?
Kitchens are demanding that produce be delivered in reusable, returnable crates instead of pallets wrapped in layers and layers of plastic shrink wrap.
And what I find really fascinating is that luxury brands are actually leaning into this rather than fighting it. You would think luxury means abundance and waste, but brands like Mandarin Oriental are treating sustainability as a core brand asset.
Because they have done the math.
Yeah.
Mandarin Oriental uses AI-driven waste management systems in their kitchens to track exactly what food is being thrown away.
Tracking the actual scraps.
Yes. It allows them to adjust their purchasing and eliminate 99% of single-use plastics across their properties. And they don't frame this to the guest as a reduction in service or a cost-cutting measure.
How do they pitch it?
They frame it as a premium, modern commitment to quality and local heritage.
It is a brilliant dual victory. You attract the high-value, conscious consumer who wants to feel good about where they sleep, and simultaneously, you avoid those crushing 130 pounds per ton tax penalties.
It proves that compliance and profitability do not have to be mutually exclusive if you engineer the solution correctly.
Okay, we have covered a truly massive amount of ground today. From the NLRB completely rewriting the rules on joint employer liability and making franchisors sweat over their manuals, to the FTC and local governments like New York City ruthlessly cracking down on hidden junk fees.
This has been a lot.
We have explored the intense, zero-tolerance human trafficking mandates in Florida, the privacy mechanics of digital IDs in Colorado, the logistical nightmare of the FDA's traceability codes, the boom of the cottage food industry, and the UK's aggressive financial war on plastic waste.
It is a fundamentally altered operational landscape out there. The rules of engagement for 2026 are written in stone, and they are strictly enforced by data.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought to ponder as you look at your own business.
I like this part.
We've spent the last hour talking about the cost, the stress, and the sheer operational burden of all this compliance. But what if we flip the script?
Okay.
What if the ultimate competitive advantage in the future of the hospitality industry isn't your new seasonal taste menu, and it isn't having 800 thread count sheets in the penthouse? What if your ultimate competitive advantage is your regulatory agility?
It is a really fascinating question.
Mm-hmm.
If you build a business that is compliant by default, where your warehouse software automatically infers TLCs without slowing down the forklifts,
Right.
where your learning management system seamlessly trains new hires within that strict 60-day window, where your point-of-sale system instantly displays all-in pricing to avoid class action lawsuits. Does this terrifying regulatory minefield actually become a protective moat for your business? Does your ability to navigate these complex laws elevate you above less prepared competitors who are currently getting buried in fines and lawsuits?
I mean, it has to.
It is certainly the most critical strategic question for every executive to consider as we move toward 2027.
A moat made of compliance and data architecture. I absolutely love that reframing. It changes the whole game.
It really does.
Well, this deep dive was supported by the generous commitment of our sponsors, and we extend a special thank you to HRB Universal. I cannot stress this enough. Contact HRB Universal for all your training and consulting needs for the hotel, restaurant, and bar industry before your operation is in trouble or cash flow is too tight. Do not wait for the inspector to show up. You can find them directly at hrbuni.com.
Great advice.
We also want to acknowledge the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program for fostering shared success and equitable growth in the food and beverage sector. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and keep your business on the right side of these massive shifts, make sure you subscribe and listen to the Kitchen to C-Suite podcast on your favorite app or via Riverside.
And don't forget to download the HRB Network mobile app so you can take these insights wherever you go.
Exactly. Thank you for diving deep with us today. We know the waters are incredibly murky right now, but hopefully you've got a much clearer map for the rest of the year. Until next time, keep innovating, keep adapting, and take care.